بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Let us have the sincere intention. Lillahi ta'ala. So today we're going to finish the section on sins of the heart. And the author continued with saying that harming a Muslim deceptively. An explanation is straightforward that harming a Muslim with deception is an enormous sin. In the hadith narrated by Al-Tirmidhi, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the one who harms a Muslim deceptively deserves to be tortured in hellfire. This means to harm the Muslim in a concealed manner. This is haram. The author said, hating the companions, the Al of the Prophet ﷺ, and the righteous Muslims. The explanations. Among the sins of the heart is to hate the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And the one who hates all the companions blaspheme by that. So it is blasphemy to hate all the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So who are the companions? They are the Sahabi. So the Sahabi or the companion is one who met the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even for a short time, while believing in the Prophet ﷺ, and then died as a Muslim. So even if he apostatized after meeting the Prophet, but he returned to Islam and he died as a Muslim, he is still considered a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. So on the contrary, if someone met the Prophet while he was not Muslim, but later he embraced Islam. So, but after embracing Islam, he did not meet with the Prophet and he died as a Muslim. Such a person is not considered to be a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. If someone hates someone with a high status, like a similar status of the status of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, or Ali, then he is committing an enormous sin, and he is not considered blasphemy by that, by only doing that. So when hating all the companions, he blasphemes. But if someone hates a particular companion, just one for a specific reason, he does not blaspheme. So when Abu Bakr was a Khalifa, a person cursed him in his face, and Abu Bakr did not consider this person as a blasphemer. One companion wanted to harm this person, the person who uh, cursed Abu Bakr, but Abu Bakr prevented him from doing that. During the time of Uthman, some people cursed him, and despite that, okay, so some people during the time of Uthman, right, some people cursed him and despised him, and they killed him. So the Muslims did not consider those who did that as blasphemers. They did not judge them as blasphemers because they cursed Uthman or killed him. Obviously, this is a major sin. Major, major sin. Um, right, killing is one of the major sins, but blasphemy in itself means a person can never ever leave, not a Jahannam. And so they didn't consider a person like that a blasphemer. But these people obviously acquired the sin if they did not die, repenting. And so, likewise, Ali, like some people showed enmity against him, they cursed him, and the Muslims did not judge them as blasphemers because of that. So, hating Abu Bakr, Uthman, or the like, it's not blasphemers, but hating all the companions is blasphemy. The Al of the Prophet ﷺ are the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and his Muslim relatives. So it's a sin to hate them, like hating Aisha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, Fatima, um, Ali again, which is like the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and like so. As for the righteous Muslims, they are those who did the obligations and they refrain from sins. And currently, there are some Muslims who do the obligations and refrain from the sins. So to hate them is a sin. to show enmity to one of the righteous pious Muslim, so like a wali, this is an enormous sin. As is narrated in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, a man was cursing Ali in Medina, and he was riding an animal and dispraising Ali. So um, one of the one of the great companions, one of the among them, he was a great companion. He saw people gathered around this man and asked the people, "What's going on?" The people said, "This person is cursing Ali. He's dispraising him." So this is the Sahaba, and he approached him. His name was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and he is among the 10 companions to whom the Prophet ﷺ gave the good news that he will enter paradise. And he said to him, like, why are you dispraising Ali? Don't you know that he is the first one who embraced Islam? Don't you know he is the husband of the Prophet's daughter? He is the Prophet's son-in-law. Don't you know that the Prophet used to give him his banner? Don't you know and don't you know? So he started mentioning Ali's merits, and he said, "Oh Allah, if this man is cursing a person among the awliya, then before this gathering leaves, show the people the sign of your power." Which means punish this man. Let them, show a sign of punishment. So immediately after he finished this dua, the animal moved in a way that the man fell from it, and he hit his head on the stone, and his head split, and he died immediately. So the one who shows enmity to pious people, usually he's punished in this life, on top of what he deserves in the hereafter. So if people like Abu Bakr, Omar, Ali, Aisha, and like they were harmed by other people, right? Prophets were even murdered by non-believers. Like, what about us? What about other Muslims? So we are not above being harmed by other people. So one needs to be patient with that. And again, we mentioned patience is you don't disobey Allah, you do the obligations. And the third one I forgot. I think it has to do with the nafs, but those two are definitely part of being patient. So it's something that one should expect is that, they would be disrespected. They would be dispraised, right? They should expect that as long as one lives. There will be people who would harm him or her unjustly. So one needs to be patient and concentrate on what benefits the person in the hereafter. That's how one should react. No one among us can satisfy all the people in the world. Al-Nawawi, at the time, he was famous and he was respected. There was a knowledgeable person who hated him, who used to talk about him in a way that harmed him, right? And this person was knowledgeable. It's not like he was ignorant, he was knowledgeable. And this man, he later died, and right, we will all die. Later, an animal came similar to a cat, and it took the tongue. It cut off the tongue of the man, and it went away with it. So those are the signs. And the clever person, they take these signs as a warning. They benefit from these signs. The author said, abstaining from what abstaining from paying some of what Allah made obligatory, when this is called al-bukhl. 19, abstaining from paying a lot or all of what Allah made obligatory. And in Arabic, this is called ash-shuh. And 20, having a strong desire to be rich in a bad, sinful manner. And this is called al-hirs. So explanation. So these three, they originate from being attached to money. The first sin, al-bukhl, is one who abstains from paying what Allah made an obligation upon him, like not paying the obligatory zakat, not supporting the wife with the obligatory support, not um, taking care of the children, right, and the like. If a person increases in the sin, so this is the terms of level, so al-bukhl is less than ash-shuh. So if he continues with the sin and sin, and let's say he goes beyond what we just mentioned, then he reaches the level of al-shuh. So, for example, he does not only abstain from paying the obligatory zakat, but he also abstains from supporting his wife, the children that he's obligated to support, his relatives for the obligatory support, and so on. So if he becomes, so the first one is like he's abstaining from some of what Allah made obligatory. And the second one, ash-shuh, is he's abstaining from paying a lot or all of what Allah made obligatory. And if he continues in that, if he continues with his attachment to money, then this sin is called al-hirs. It means for one to be attached to money and gather money in a way with sin. So alcohol, interest, cheating, gambling, right? He does not care if he is getting the money halal or haram. He wants to gather money for the purpose of spending it for haram matters. Like to gather money with the goal of showing off. Or, they make money to acquire more sins. For example, paying women is what I'm thinking of, and that's very, very common in the non-Muslim areas. We see that a lot in TV. So that's called al-hirs. So money is of two types. So money with good consequences and money with bad consequences. Money, the good money, is the money that one gathers from halal, way to spend it in obedience. And it is narrated in the hadith, which means, what a good thing for a pious person to have good money. So what does good money mean? It means money gathered from a halal way with a good intention, to be spent in the good, in what Allah made obligatory, and in what Allah gives a high status to, such as zakah. So in the past and in today's time, some people are like that. They're rare, but they are like that. They are pious and they gather money in the way that benefits them in hereafter. So fulfilling the obligations, supporting the community, supporting their religion, supporting the Muslims, and so on. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a well in Al-Madinah owned by a non-Muslim. The people in Al-Madinah were in need to drink from that well. It would make it much easier for them to use the water of that well. The owner of the well, he did not treat them in a gentle way. He did not facilitate that for them, and he owned the well. Our master Osman, he knew about this situation and he asked to purchase half of it. The non-Muslim asked for a very high price, and our master Osman, he paid him the amount that he asked for. He bought half of the well from him, so he became his partner in half of that well. When he became his partner, our master Osman told the Muslims to take from it without anything in return. Then Osman's partner offered to sell Osman the other half of the well. So this is an example of how one would spend money in a beneficial way. Another example is to take care of the needy relatives, the needy people, the knowledge of the religion, the students of the knowledge, and so on. So some people, money for them is only a means to get reward, and other people, money for them is a means to acquire sense. The author said, a sin includes breaching the rules of glorification regarding to Allah made glorified. And 22, belittling what Allah rendered great in status and consequence, be in obedience, disobedience, the Quran, Islamic knowledge, paradise, or torture of the hellfire. So, explanation. Among the sins of the heart is for one to be careless about something that Allah stated has a big merit or has a severe consequence. So some people who claim to be Sufis, they say that paradise is a toy for small children, or something like that, right? It's a similar statement. What they basically mean by that is that we have such a high status, which is similar, which is higher to other people. So other people, the normal people, they care about paradise and hellfire. But for us, paradise does not mean anything to us. It's like a toy for children. Like we are better than others in this. And this is blasphemy because they are belittling what Allah Ta'ala told us has a great status. And so belittling it is belying the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, which means there is nothing in this world that has a high status of paradise. That is, everything that we see here that is a worldly matter is so much of a lower status than paradise. So likewise, some of these so-called Sufis, they say hellfire is like a hospital. Like it's not a place for punishment. So they deny the torture of the fire, or they're implying that it's not that severe, right? So they say this to easily commit sins and to make it easy for those who follow them to do that, to also commit sins. They do it to tell them it's okay, just stay with us and we will give you enlightenment and you can do whatever you want. So hellfire is like a hospital. Whatever you do, you are not going to be tortured in hellfire. And this is also blasphemy because Allah told us in the Quran that the torture of hellfire is severe. One of the people, they lived in Syria a long time ago in Damascus, and he also died a long time ago. And he used to say that hellfire is like a hospital. So some people followed him, and they still exist. They used to say none of the prophets got killed, never got harmed. And this is obviously blasphemy because it's mentioned in the Quran that some of the prophets were killed. Prophet Yahya, John, he was killed. His head was cut off. And his father also was a prophet, and he was killed. Prophet Zechariah was his father. And, other than that, there are other prophets that were killed that we don't even know about, that were not mentioned. So this is why this is why if someone commits a sin, it is not permissible to say it's okay. No, it's not okay to do a sin. The one who understands the saying it's okay, there is no harm in doing a sin, is belying their religion and would be committing blasphemy. If he understands from that there is no harm in sinning, then this is belying the rules of the religion. Because Allah told us that there are bad consequences for sinning, and this person, it's as if he's saying, no, that's not the case. Likewise, belittling the Quran. An example of that is if a person is for a person to carry a book of Quran without being in a state of purification. And this is a sin that results from a lack of proper glorification in the heart. This does not mean that one does not this does not mean that the one, okay, this does not mean that one does not mean, okay, this does not mean that one does not glorify the Quran in one's heart at all. If one does not, this is blasphemy, right? So somebody can still glorify the Quran in their heart, but at the same time touch it without being in a state of purification. And this is a sin. But if one does not glorify the Quran in his heart at all, does not give it a high status, then that's when it becomes blasphemy. Like the kuffar, they don't believe in the Quran and they don't give it a high status and they make fun of it. And simply just by that, that's blasphemy. So it just means that if someone touches the Quran without being in purification, it just means that he's lacking in that matter. Okay, and here are some questions or statements that were introduced at the end of the lesson. So if someone has a car and another person envies him out of that, and he damages the car, this is what we mean by we say to act accordingly with the envy. Acting accordingly, that is saying something or doing something to carry out the envy. To You listen to the envy, and the envy causes you to act in a way to manifest a particular action. So to deprive the person of from the endowment, this is what we mean by that. So if you know that someone wants to use something to harm people, then you do not help that person to do that. Helping someone to commit a sin is a sin by itself. If someone feels in his heart that he is hating the endowment that Allah endowed upon someone else, but he does not do anything to deprive the other person from that endowment, then he is not sinful for that. It is not sinful even if he has that, even if that feeling comes to his heart, or if he feels that he hates that Muslim. This is not something that he can control. Again, it could be shaitan, it could be waswas that manifest these feelings, but it's your duty to kind of not listen to it. So this is something that comes to his heart without him intention, without him even wanting to. So he controls it by saying, I will not harm him, I will not do anything to that Muslim because this is haram. This is what Allah told me to do. Like I can't do that because it's the order of Allah. Regardless of those feelings that come to my heart. Or yeah. So we'll stop here. If you have any questions, you guys can always send me a text and just say salam ala nabi. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بارك الله فيكم السلام عليكم